Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Since 2003, we've been connecting buyers and sellers, providing access to sold-out events at prices lower than most secondary market options. Whether it's sports, theater, or concerts, our massive nationwide network ensures you get the tickets you want, guaranteed. For the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. That's TICKETLIQUIDATOR.com. Ticket Liquidator.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farms, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shop now at farmhounds.com.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Welcome to the Astrology Table podcast.
Please take a seat. This is Jordan.
And this is Rachel.
And this is the Astrology Podcast Table.
The Astrology Table podcast.
Yes, that's what I meant. As I stared at you intensely.
And this is the full moon in Leo. This full moon is happening on Wednesday, the 12th of February, around 7:54 a.m. Central Time at 24 degrees of Leo. And in the spirit of, I don't know what, we want to add a section to this podcast to talk about the previous moon's manifestations and how it showed up both in the collective, in the news, and then in our personal lives. So we're missing our dear friend April. Shout out to April.
Day.
See you
we
later.
We miss you.
But Jordan and I want to go over a few things that happened in our own lives after the previous new moon in Aquarius, and also the current events. So, Jordan, you've got a lot down here.
I do, and I won't jumble my words like I just did with the
But
how was podcast.
How was the new moon for you?
It was interesting. Not a lot of big personal events, which I'm actually okay with. I was hoping it would be kind of low key. I actually had a lot of reconnecting with, I don't even want to say old friends, like they're still my current friends. I just, life, being an adult, you don't get to see them as consistently and often as you would like. So it felt like reconnecting with a lot of people that are in my community. And it was also creative people too. So that was really nice and refreshing, and inspiring. So I'm actually really excited about my art, and I've set some goals for myself for the year, and it's nice to like have some support. My great friend Liz, she's also a creative. She draws and paints, and she was like, hey, like, can we have an art night together? Because we used to do that, maybe like 2 years ago. And it wasn't like all the time, but it was at least like once every few weeks. We would get together, and just paint, draw, hang out. And I've really been needing that. I think I've just been isolating myself too much, which is fine with my creativity, but it's nice to have that support. It's inspiring.
I totally resonate and connect with that because this last new moon was in Aquarius, right? Air sign, speaking to the collective. And it was trining Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter retrograde. And so that reconnecting, especially given two air signs, like the social stuff, and I even have this written down in mine, the social stuff has been so off the chain. I've had a public or community or friend meetup almost, I would say actually every single day since the new moon.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything forced or things I didn't want to do. A lot of it was stuff I did want to do.
Yeah, it was genuine.
Right.
Yeah.
And meeting up with people who are more aligned with my current social, I think, goals is what I want to say. Jupiter also governs that kind of goal seeking, like wanting to be better, wanting to expand.
And my goals they're not daunting to me. Like, I feel like I kind of make bigger goals for myself. And I say bigger as in a way that like overwhelms me. They might not be big to some people, but I tend to get overwhelmed, and that kind of is what holds me back from pursuing my goals. But I'm excited. It's nice to talk to people and get that support and hear their perspectives on it too.
Yeah. And I mean, it's worth noting that in our charts, right, depending on what what your rising sign is. Like myself as a Leo rising, this was in my 7th house of relationships and my 11th house of groups and organizations, hopes and dreams. And so
That
the
makes
idea
sense, yeah.
of socializing with lots of people, like for me, it was the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce, the young professionals. I, was doing some social meetups with, things that are tangentially work related, but they're really both, where it's like, hey, I'm meeting you in this professional context, but I'm personally interested.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me, like in recording this podcast,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
recorded some other podcasts. Like it was just this talking to people thing. So for everybody else out there, see where Aquarius and Gemini fall in your chart to kind of get an idea about where you might have seen this activation. And I'm saying that also because the current events between last lunar cycle and now were bananas.
Crazy. Oh my God. And they're just getting crazier.
We're bananas.
Like it's not stopping. It's not slowing down.
And we're doing this from a U.S. centric perspective because it's where we are, especially in the heart of Texas here in the United States. But the U.S. Sibley chart has the U.S. as a Sagittarius rising, which puts Aquarius as our 3rd house and Gemini as our 7th. So 2 social houses as well. But I think it's very crazy how we've been dealing with border stuff, mass deportations, tariffs. There have been like a lot of changes made within established social order groups or organizations like USAID or diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. There have been some agencies. I mean, pretty much every government worker has been invited to resign.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's
I feel
crazy.
like there's been a lot of like tragedies. I guess it's
The plane crashes as well. There's been, we had the worst plane crash in over a decade in the United States. And then we had another one. And then we had another one.
Back to back.
Like 3 back to back to back. And you're like, whoa.
Like what is happening here? It just feels like a lawless land. Like it's just chaos ensued.
Well, I mean, the director of the FAA was removed right before that.
Mm-hmm.
And, some say it has nothing to do. I'm not an aviation expert, but I think it is interesting how we had this super air sign moon, and then we have these air sign issues coming, especially after you've had covenants or agreements, all of which are very Aquarian things, broken.
Yeah.
I think globally it was interesting to see DeepSeek AI come out and like level the rest of the stock market AI companies.
God.
Like NVIDIA lost billions of dollars worth of valuation after this new lower cost open source AI came out. And I mean, you have things like our president in the United States is trying to purchase Gaza.
Mm.
And then there's this tentative peace deal that happened as well for prisoner exchange, which I think is the most interesting, Aquarius Gemini kind of deal that Jupiter tried. You're like, okay, well, at least we're exchanging a few people.
Right? Yeah.
This is better than none.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But just very strange stuff. And I think that since Jupiter has stationed direct during that lunar cycle, we might see a shift in direction and current with some of those things. But I would say that all of the events globally and personally sound like they're incredibly social and relational.
Yes.
And this full moon, I'm interested in the contrast, because obviously Leo and Aquarius are a dichotomy.
Mm-hmm.
They are 2 ends of one axis, the self versus the other. So now we have the moon in the sign of the self. And I think this is going to be intense. So Leo is the 5th sign in the zodiac, fixed fire, ruled by the sun, symbolized by the lion, and it rules the heart, the spine, and the upper back. So I think there's going to be a lot of heart-centered stuff that lands kind of close to the chest, close to the identity.
Right. Maybe differences in self-expression.
Oh,
like, like I guess in a way, like Aquarians, they're also very self-expressive in a totally different way.
It's in a way, so the sun is in its detriment in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because it's hard to express, especially a new idea within the collective. To be a trendsetter or an early adopter, there is a cost at the bleeding edge, but also they're very humanitarian.
Yeah.
And that usually comes with a little bit of personal sacrifice.
Mm.
And I feel too, like when you're saying this difference in expression, this full moon will also be opposite Mercury at 26 Aquarius, because the moon is happening at 24 Aquarius Leo. So just a
Oh.
couple of degrees. And that's kind of going to be facing down some of your previously held notions, or maybe trying to figure out some new ideas.
Right.
And how do you take those ideas and then define yourself within
Yeah.
that space?
Lots of complexity within
Oh my
and without.
goodness.
But-
I think especially the outer reality, like what I think a lot of people have been discussing too. Now that AI is so everyday and so in everything, and it's in every app, it's in your Apple Intelligence now.
yeah, it's basically been accepted at this point.
And what does that mean for personal creativity and authenticity? For art?
Some inner questions, yeah, about the self, yeah.
And I feel like there is, especially with this opposition between the moon and Mercury, a bit of cognitive dissonance. Like there might be two things that you have to hold in your mind at the same time, which are very hard to do. And I think a lot of that is being reflected in the outer world right now as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, hold on. Elon Musk?
Right?
Question mark?
Question mark? Yeah.
Fascism? Maybe? I don't know. What is
Scary.
this?
Yeah, it's like heavy, intense topics.
And liberty, though?
Yeah.
And justice, maybe? Question mark?
Freedom? Question mark?
And I have here, too, that the identity issues are going to be personal, I think, as well as collective.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of other countries are experiencing these identity issues.
Mm-hmm.
Germany has the far right rising up. The UK is now like hanging out with the EU again, even though it's not official.
Well,
you
even
know.
in our country, I mean, it's always been, but more so now, there's just a big divide politically, like a hard divide.
Yeah, and I think that there will be a difficult time with facing facts for certain people. And, you know, maybe you hold an opinion and then you see that opinion played out. Like there are a lot of young people who have voted for Trump that I've seen online are now like, wait, what?
Right.
I didn't think this
The
was going to
disillusion.
happen.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, there are all these ideas that you are for, but maybe you're now having this, like you're seeing it play out.
Right.
And it looks different outside than it did inside your mind.
Right. It's not playing out at all how you thought it would.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's this acknowledgement of past, or this like sort of history repeating itself vibe. But then there's also the desire, like when you have the moon in Leo and you're facing down the sun and Mercury in Aquarius, it's like, should I do the when in Rome? Like, should I just go with it? Or am I the one who's going to pay the price of being like, I think this is wrong?
Yeah. Embracing my difference. And, you know.
And that requires courage.
Yeah. Because you're going to have some sort of rejection from somebody.
Well, and
From some
cancel
community.
culture is
Yeah.
so big.
And so, yeah, having the courage to hopefully maybe take a stand for what is right.
Very spine, upper back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually literally stand for what is right.
And I think this also connects to the closest aspect that any planet is making. It's not that Mercury, even though that Mercury's close. Actually, it is that Mercury. No, never mind. Never mind. I was right before.
Wait a minute.
The closest aspect to this full moon is a square with Uranus at 23 Taurus. And Uranus stationed direct, recently on the 30th of January. But I'm really feeling like there might be something that we realize in this reflection, or something that we see in the mirror, that then is like, okay, I need to make a change. Because if I don't make a change, like I'm not going to be satisfied.
Right. You're just going to be stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think outwardly that's going to be more social shift. I know we keep talking about shifts and changes.
But yeah,
year.
that's like the vibe. Yeah.
And I can see some like course corrections or course changes, some sort of like major shift in circumstances.
Right.
Both personally and then collectively. And I think the headlines are going to continue to be wild.
Yeah. And not all shifts are bad. I think that's why a lot of people have that fear of, you realize you need to change something about yourself, but it's the fear of like losing that comfort.
But then there's the discovery process.
Right. And that's more empowering and enlightening.
Because there are aspects of ourselves that kind of like we peel off our like layers of an onion.
Right.
And then you get to the middle and you're like, wait, that is actually kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even realize.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so flavorful. I taste so good on everything.
And speaking to the Leo part, I think there are a lot of people out there who don't consider themselves creative.
But Leos are so creative.
But we all as people are creative.
Just in different ways.
Yes.
You just don't know it yet.
Right. And there are so many different things to create. It's not just visual art.
Right.
Right. You can create all sorts of things, but even just like every human carries the capacity to create new life.
Right.
In part.
And expression is so important because you're transmuting whatever it is you need to transmute into an outlet.
It's like the fertilizing of self.
Right. It's literally creating. Yeah. It's just creation itself.
I think though that just because I know this, I love moons in Leo. As a Leo rising, it's like, yes.
Yay.
Love it. But I think there's going to be, because the moon is being ruled by a sun in detriment, there's going to be a little bit of difficulty in some aspect.
Yeah.
Maybe not loving the choices we have, or maybe not having the resources you
right.
want.
Be like, okay, I guess I'll take this one. It's a little bit better.
Right. But if you realize, if you're like, oh shit, I'm going the wrong way, I need to make a change. Well, then.
Yeah. What's stopping you? You know.
But then also there's the having to do that.
Right. The work.
Yes. Yes. It's like, okay, well now I've got to turn this car around.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah.
Drive that direction again.
I got to do a 10-point turn.
Yes.
You know.
If on a tight road.
Right.
Yeah. And there's also social pressure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in different communities are feeling pressure to have an opinion, like the American Jewish communities being, feeling pinched to have, quote unquote, the right opinion about Israel, Gaza. I think there are certain people like Texans who are feeling like they have to have the right opinion about the border. Mm-hmm. And the right opinion is so complex and gray.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes you're like, I want to conform, but what am I conforming to?
Yeah. And what's going to be the cost of this? Like personally and, communally. Like
yes.
what community may I lose from this? Or what community will I gain from this?
Because there's always a cost to groupthink.
Oh, yeah.
Like participating in any big polarized thing, there's always an alienation that happens.
Consequence.
I feel like Leo is more like about personal union.
Yeah.
So speaking about union, I think this is a great time to break for a word from our sponsors.
Easy Sun has been living fearlessly under the sun since 2016. Born from sailors' need for convenient sun protection, our mineral sunscreen is crafted with natural ingredients offering broad spectrum protection against UVA and UVB rays. Safe for your skin and the environment, stay protected on the go with Easy Sun, your ultimate sun care solution. Visit EasySun.com today. That's EEZYSUN.com. Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today.
And we're back. So these are the next top 3 transits of this lunar cycle. Mercury entering Pisces on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day at 6:06 a.m.
So Mercury in Pisces. Pisces is the mutable water sign ruled by Jupiter. It's the last sign in the zodiac represented by the fish and ruling the ankles, feet, and the lymphatic system. So Pisces is the one, the all, the everything, the internal knowing of complete union. And Mercury, the mind, the expression, the exchange, the data, the facts, does not do well here. Let me just, all of y'all out there, Mercury in Pisces is in its fall and in its detriment. It's like double bad Mercury. And I'm not bad as in like bad Mercury.
Yeah.
But it just...
it's weird. It's off.
For the Mercury things of like measuring accurately or tallying appropriately or getting it just right, accurate.
It's like, oh, it's about that far.
There's
it's like
none
an
of
arm.
that.
It's like an arm's length.
This is the
Yeah.
cook who never actually
Yeah.
measures anything.
The
They're like,
blind
no,
faith.
I just
yeah,
put
no,
it in
I know what I
here."
need to do.
And it feels right.
Right.
Yeah, it's like trying to find your way, not with your eyes, but with like echolocation.
Yeah. And I feel like in these transits, there's a lot of Piscean energy
Oh,
that's
my.
going on. Like a lot. Like I was like reading through it earlier.
I am a natal moon Mars in Pisces, and so I feel very at home swimming.
Yes.
But it's gonna be crazy, y'all, because Mercury is joining Saturn, the North Node, and Neptune. So this Pisces party, there's 2 outer planets. There's a very intense pull of the magnet of the North Node, and now the mind jumps in there. But it's gonna be like mental soup, dude.
Yeah. I like that you put thoughtful nonsense.
Because it's gonna be a lot of thinking about a lot of things that don't seem to make any
Right.
sense.
But it's just your spirit. I feel like it's like your spirit trying to communicate, or maybe like over communicating with it being in Mercury. I don't know. That sounds kind of silly, but that was poppycock.
well, and it's all about that sort of like verbal approximation, or that like you'll have to hear what people mean, not what they say.
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be a lot of things are going to sound.
You're going to have to dig deeper. Yeah.
Like it will sound strange. It will sound like
Otherworldly.
or like people just kind of vomiting words,
Right.
trying to express something that's beyond the words that they're saying.
Yeah. Beyond the comprehension.
And
But-
people can get weird ideas with Mercury and Pisces. Like you might see, okay, everybody, look at all your friends, especially the people who do not follow astrology, and watch how spiritual they get right now. Watch how all of them are going to be like having some newfangled, like new age or religious experience. And they're going to be like, I don't know. I'm just thinking about art and music and death and life.
And grief and the complexities of
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. What are we?
Right. And you're going to be like, when did you get so philosophical?
Right.
It is Mercury and Pisces.
Well, to be honest, I'm kind of curious to see how it goes, because I'm already that kind of person anyway, constantly in my mind every day. Just what is life and what is this? Like, what is the meaning of everything?
But then like add in some ethers and some like fog and some mist.
Some
and
mystery.
Like
Yeah.
mental frolicking.
Yeah.
Where you're like, wait, what am I even thinking about?
Yeah.
Like daydream hardcore.
Okay.
I'm
Oh.
seeing too a lot of deja vu.
Yeah.
Tons of deja
Okay.
vu with Neptune there. And maybe even some like wild hair pie in the sky things where you're like, what if I just gave up all my possessions, closed my bank accounts, and moved to Ghana to run an orphanage?
Yeah. What could go wrong?
That's so Jupiter and Pisces
Right.
being like, oh my God, yes.
And
Give
maybe,
all of myself.
do you think maybe, I'm trying to figure out how to word it.
Very Mercury and Pisces.
Maybe struggles with limerence. Like, like fixating, fantasizing,
Yes.
but in that daydream, like obsessing over a daydream almost, or even limerencing on spiritual things.
Y'all, this is so Mercury and Pisces. I don't know the word limerence.
I'm not going to define it because I'll probably get it wrong.
Yeah, no, but like I usually don't run across a word I've never heard.
Oh yeah. It's a beautiful word. You should learn more about it.
I will.
Because personally, I think limerence can be different. I mean, it's, it affects people kind of the same, but it can be very different experience for everybody. For me, it's kind of getting obsessively caught up in a fantasy or a daydream. Like it's like an unhealthy obsessive crush.
I love that the sort of fantasy spiral. Being pulled into something in kind of an all-consuming way. It's very
all-consuming.
Neptune.
It's very. It can also lead to like paranoia almost.
Okay, and especially y'all, because the ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, is recently direct, but it's still in Gemini, which is its sign of detriment. So at least there's an exchange between Mercury and Pisces and Jupiter and Gemini. They're squaring each other, though, so there is this weird tension. But given that both of them are in these really uncomfortable places, I think that a lot of like that limerence is possible. Kind of just like having these bizarre trains of thought or like, this crazy faith stuff, or like that sort of wishing really hard for something. You
Yeah.
can get kind of caught up in that, and maybe you're doing that daydream, but you're in the middle of like your work at the
Right.
bank, and
It's
you're
like
like,
a
wait, I
delusion. Yeah.
can't.
It's like you're engaging in a delusion, essentially. That's like
Yes.
what limerence, for me personally, feels like. Engaging daily or however often in a delusion.
And I think that there is a high end of this. Like you can do this, reaching for the sky thing, or like hoping for the best, and really keeping that kind of positive internal mental environment, making art, creativity, imagination, all those can be like
actually expressing the thoughtlessness, or like the, not thoughtlessness, that's a bad word. But the soup, the mind soup.
the place beyond thought.
Right.
Like very
Yeah.
Buddhist place.
Yeah, trying to express that.
The meditation, the unity, the sort of intuitive, the connected.
Right. It could be useful, and try to do that instead of getting caught up in limerence or like obsession.
And you know what?
Delusion.
You can even go with things though. Like if you like fantasy cinema, like go watch you some fantasy
like
cinema.
a nice escape.
Yeah, escapism.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Comfort. Yeah.
But like the best form of escapism, like read some phenomenal fiction,
Right.
or something. Like that sort
That's
of
a good idea. Yeah.
And even, like automatic drawing or speaking or writing, where you
Mhm.
can just take and be like, okay, I'm going to make this art, whether it be spoken, written, drawn, whatever, and not let myself pause. You can even do this with instruments, where you're just like, I'm just going to keep playing.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what I create.
And then it just comes out of you. And one thing I love doing, especially when Mercury's in Pisces, is automatic speaking, where I'll ask myself a question, then look at myself in the mirror and like tell myself the answer to my
Just
question,
like back to back.
without letting
Wow.
myself pause.
Yeah. It's like without thinking about it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Those are
sometimes
some
you're
good
like,
ideas.
holy shit.
Why did I just say that? Yeah.
And I've found I can recover memories I didn't know that I had,
Cool.
which is very
Fascinating.
Mercury in Pisces.
Yes.
Like finding that.
Yes.
But Mercury will be here in Pisces until March 3rd when it enters Aries. Mercury will retrograde back to Pisces. So we are in this territory, in this sign, where we will retrograde
So we'll get
back
to experience it. Yeah. At least we get a little taste of it. So we know what to expect.
Yeah. And y'all, if you have not filed your taxes yet, I'm telling you this is coming out at least a couple of days before February 14th. So if you haven't filed your taxes yet and you don't think you can get to it, file an extension, because Mercury is not going to be in a place to get these done, right? At all. Like if you're like, oh, but March 3rd, it's Mercury in Aries. Do you really want to file your taxes while Mercury's in its retrograde shadow? Like you'll have to come back to it. You're going to get something wrong. Or it's going to be revisited. So just file them or file an extension.
Right. Pisces doesn't want to do that kind of work.
Well, and it won't be right.
No.
It won't be right.
Because it's going to be all faith-based.
Taxes are a
Like,
great
it'll work-
example of
it'll
what
work
Mercury
out.
and
Yeah.
Pisces should not do.
It'll work out.
You don't want your accountant to be on ayahuasca.
No.
That's not going to work. And adding to the Pisces soup is going to be the sun, our next transit, our second transit. The sun enters Pisces on Tuesday, February 18th, so just 4 days later at 4:07 p.m. Central Time.
I do like referring to all the celestial bodies, or the ones that are in Pisces, as soup. I think that's really funny.
It is. Mutable water is
Yeah.
the soup. And it's also like the swirling soup,
Yeah.
like the whirlpool at the same time.
Right.
It's like, wow. Yeah, and the steam that's
Right.
coming off the soup,
Maybe the witch like stirring
the cauldron.
Yes.
So Piscean. And the great thing about the sun in Pisces, unlike Mercury, is that the sun doesn't have any major debility here. It doesn't have any dignity either. So the sun doesn't have any resources.
Kind of neutral.
Yeah, but no
Yeah.
lack of resources. We call planets that are in spaces like this peregrine. And so if you're curious, look up peregrine planets. But basically where they have no dignity or debility. They're just
Okay.
existing.
Yeah. Fun.
Kind of neutral.
Yeah. I enjoy Pisces season because at the end it sometimes can warm up. You kind of start transitioning into that beautiful springtime.
Like ice melting.
Yeah. It's nice.
And then it makes the ground all wet. So
But
then
yeah.
when the sun comes, it's like, wee.
Right. But it's still like a quiet, thoughtful time.
Very internal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, in my mind, this inner journeying
Yes.
that happens during Pisces season, where you're thinking about the spring and all the things you
and
want to
the
do.
excitement, because it's winter. So for me, it's hard. I get seasonal depression.
Mm-hmm.
It's by the end of February, or by February, I'm like over it.
Yeah.
I'm over it. And like our winters aren't even that brutal here. Like, I mean, thankfully the freezes have gotten,
And for anyone listening, it was 85 degrees yesterday here
beautiful.
in Texas. It was
Beautiful.
spring.
Yeah.
Now it's back to 50. So
Yeah.
you never know. You never know. Things are crazy. And that, I think, is going to be a little bit like reflected by this Pisces season. I bet you will get some random days where you're like, it is 80 degrees. And then some
it's going to
days
be
it's
like 40.
raining and 40.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right. And like randomly.
Yeah.
It's obviously not random weather patterns, but like I don't understand the weather patterns.
No, yeah, I don't either.
And so it'll just be one day this, one day that.
And it's like, be ready.
Pisces is dual bodied.
Your emotional states might be everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially with Mars still in Cancer. I feel like there's going to be this difficulty with change, and like so much change that there is difficulty.
Right.
And there will be, because even, okay, it's Pisces season, Mercury's in Pisces, everything's in Pisces, Sun's in Pisces, and you get enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
Even that, like there is weight with enlightenment. You're like, okay, now do I go share this?
Yeah.
Like what
do I do? Like,
do I have to do something?
Yeah.
Or if you have like, that, what was the word you used again? The one that I want to look up.
Limerence.
Limerence.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that, like there is a prison of illusion as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can be enlightened and responsible for whatever that means.
That is basically what my personal experience of limerence is. A prison of illusion.
Yeah. And that can be very like difficult to break out of.
Yeah.
Like a spiral or a spin where you're like,
You're in the whirlpool, like
yeah.
you can't get out. You're staying afloat, but you can't get out.
In this case, of feelings that are hard to speak about.
Yeah.
I think there'll be like kind of this dissolution internally, or, when you kind of dissolve boundaries inside, then you have to integrate whatever comes out.
Right. Because we're still taking everything personally. I am.
Yeah, man.
People are hurting my feelings. I'm in a bad mood.
No, heard. And I mean, it's hard with Mars being in the sign of the moon. There's kind of this challenge with what do you do with all these big feelings?
Right.
I mean, a lot of crying. A lot of crying.
I'm tired of crying, Rachel.
Whining. Yeah. Whining. Like,
I'm good at that. Yeah.
I feel like also Mercury in Pisces is the kind that would like speak in tongues and just blah, 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 and like let yourself moan and groan. If that makes you feel better, like do it.
Yeah.
I'm not Pentecostal, but I get it. Just speak it out.
Yeah. Speak it out.
Your automatic speaking does not have to make any sense. You're the only one listening.
Right.
Although it can be hilarious.
Right.
Or it can be amazing. You're like, am I speaking Hebrew? Like, what
did I just have a spiritual experience? Yeah.
Right. And that, I think you're highlighting something with the sun in Pisces. It's hard to see spiritual experience.
Right.
Like to recognize it or realize it. As soon as you have it, like trying to go back and remember it or like hold on to it is very hard.
No, you can't pin it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's ineffable.
Yeah.
And I feel like there could be, though, especially given that Jupiter is still in Gemini. So still in that, mercurial, informational, creative sign, there could be like a little bit of fatigue, like feeling fatigue, or information fatigue, where you're like, okay, I'm tired of all this stimulation.
Yeah,
like get me out of this soup whirlpool,
please.
I don't know what's going on.
Give me a floaty. Like
I'm tired of being confused. Yeah. I feel so much.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Like I'm so drained.
Emotional stress.
Yeah.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. During tax season, your personal info travels to a lot of places. Between payroll, your tax consultant, and the IRS. If your W-2 gets exposed, that's just the ticket for identity thieves. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
And also right now in the sky, as soon as Mercury goes into Pisces, there's literally not a single body in the sky with any dignity.
Mm.
And so it's like all of us are going to feel very under-resourced, like not satisfied. There's
I don't know if I'm excited for that.
no cash and prizes. Because right now, Mercury, it's just a triplicity ruler in Aquarius, but it's the only planet that has any dignity. Everything else is fallen and detriment, like hating where it is. And I guess Saturn is peregrine. It's in Pisces and doesn't really care.
Yeah.
But there's going to be no place to get an easy win.
Mm.
And that can be hard when you're like, I just don't have anything I need.
Yeah. Especially when you feel like your emotional capacity has been at its limit.
Challenging to your personal peace or centeredness. And Pisces season can totally challenge that. As much as it wants to internally unify, the confusion can make it very jumbled in there. But kind of like Mercury in Pisces, I feel like it is very good for us to expand, to
always,
even to be like wistful or nostalgic, to kind of remember things.
Yeah, like remember maybe prior spiritual experiences or like what made you who you are today. I like to reflect on that a lot.
Like that soul-centered wayfinding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Soul stuff. This is good for soul stuff. And soul stuff is often so meta that it's hard to, like, how do you describe having, an epiphany?
Right.
I just can't.
Because souls really aren't, it's not tangible, and so you can't get a grasp on anything. Literally.
I feel like full moon in Leo, nothing is tangible. Like that's this month. Nothing is tangible.
Good luck, everyone.
Everything is mist.
Yes.
Mist and spirits.
You might bump into people, but you're on your own. So good luck.
You might walk through walls. Who knows?
Who knows? New skill unlocked.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walking on water.
New power unlocked.
And I think there is the potential. Like that's one of the high sides to unlock.
Being open-minded to that kind of,
open-souled.
reach new heights. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sun will be in Pisces until the vernal equinox, so until spring starts on March 20th. And the sun goes into Aries. So it's a nice time to wet the ground for new growth.
Yes.
For sure.
Thawing out. Our third transit is Mars stationing direct at 17 degrees Cancer, still in Cancer, on Sunday, February 23rd at 8:02 p.m.
Thank God. I am so ready for
Thank
this. God. Mars retrogrades are long and they are difficult.
Yeah, I've been in a terrible mood. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying that.
Okay, I've been noticing with Mars and Cancer, right? Cancer being the sign of the moon, it's ruling the chest and the upper alimentary system. I've been noticing that like using food as comfort.
Yeah.
I'm not usually a comfort eater, but it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I'm in a horrible mood. I need some excellent food.
I need excellent food. Or like for me, I'm like, I need all three of my favorite snacks ever on my couch watching my comfort like TV show or like something on YouTube. That's like the only thing I feel like that's been keeping me like a little bit at peace.
Those experiences though that make you feel really good, like physically good, maybe a hot shower. Like I've been hot showering the shit out of myself.
Yeah.
Just like, yes, I am clean. I am, groomed.
Yes.
I am doing these
scorching the skin, starting new.
I'm doing these Mars and Cancer things that make me feel secure.
Yeah.
That make me feel like what's the word? Mars and Cancer is like, you need to feel nourished and nurtured.
Right.
And if you don't, then you feel like grumpy.
Yeah. I've been taking everything personally. People have been rubbing me the wrong way.
Grabbiness.
Oh my God. I've been so pouty.
Poutiness.
Yeah,
That's such a Mars and Cancer thing.
I've been so pouty. Like I'm just like, please, I'm trying so hard to be in a good mood. Maybe I'm just trying too hard.
Right.
Like,
There's a lot of comfort seeking that I've
Right.
noticed. People are wanting to do things that make them feel better and whatever that is.
and it's like not really working.
It depends on where the moon is, because I feel
Yeah.
like when the moon is in a good place, like I noticed it crazy between the last moon in Taurus, which is supposed to be exalted, but it was being ruled by the freaking Venus in Aries. So ruled by a detriment Venus. And then it went into Gemini, where the moon isn't usually like, it's peregrine, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But it was being ruled by this like pretty strong Mercury in Aquarius. And I was like, oh, all of a sudden I just feel better.
Yeah, like I feel like I can do so much. Like
Yes,
you're
I feel so
excited.
positive.
Yeah.
And it's not even like hardcore positive. It's just like, I feel not shit.
Yeah, I just feel disappointed and mad like all the time. Like recently, not like all the time, but I've just noticed this about myself.
But this, like Mars in Cancer, like you're saying, it is really good for unpacking some emotions.
Yeah, it is. And how assessing how you might lash out emotionally when someone does push those buttons.
I've been calling it reparenting
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, self, why are you being
What's
such a
going on?
little?
Why did you react this way? Like let's dive deeper. That's like what I've been trying to do, and taking accountability too.
Oh my gosh, yes. And just a random example, but I have heard more people, because obviously Mars, it can be negative,
Mhm.
right? It can be a struggle or a fight. And then the moon is the sign of the physical body as well. So I've heard more people getting sick. Like the flu has been like
Oh,
crazy.
It's been like rampant. Flu, COVID, strep.
I've heard more people say they felt puny than I've ever heard.
Wow, that's an interesting description too.
And like, I just feel puny, or like
Yeah.
my daughter's still feeling puny. And you're like, I haven't heard that in years.
Yes.
And I've heard everybody being like,
It's like something you read in a book. Like I feel like people don't use that word that often.
they've been using it. And I'm like, oh, that's that like discomfort. People are
Yeah.
like, I just feel small and bad.
Yeah. And I'm mad about it.
I feel low energy and icky.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a tiny crab in a giant shell.
Meh.
Yeah, I don't like this.
I've also seen more hermit crab memes
Oh my God.
than ever.
I don't know if I mentioned this in the last podcast or one of the episodes, but I feel like Mars in Cancer, I always think of that image. It's like a meme that's been online for a long time, but it's a crab holding a knife.
Yes.
It's so funny.
Yes.
Like it's like chasing a guy. Like it's not chasing him, but it's like coming towards him and it's like has a knife in its claw.
And you're like, ah.
Yes.
You never know what it's going to
No.
do. Yeah, there's a lot of lashing out, but then there's a lot of, I think, people feeling bad about lashing
No,
out.
me immediately. Yeah, like I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Like,
And I've been noticing people getting mad at other people because they're making, okay, how do I put this? I'm mad at you because you're upset by me.
interesting.
So like, I'm upset that you're upset.
Yeah.
I've been noticing that like
Like,
stacking of upset.
Interesting.
Like, I'm
It's just
offended that you're offended.
Everyone reflecting off each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, people are not fighting, like fist fighting. They're being more
No.
like, meh,
It's just like tense.
crossing my arms and like, you know, retreating
Yeah,
into
like
my
I'm mad at you. I'm gonna not talk to you for like 3 hours and then I'll be fine.
drama.
Yes, dramatic.
Drama.
Oh, so dramatic.
Yeah. And it's like little stupid drama.
It is. And as a native Mars in Cancer, it's always stupid drama.
My
Always.
15-year-old, she's been talking about just drama that happened at the lunchroom with people giving each other the silent treatment.
Oh, the tea. Oh my God.
But I'm like, people, okay, couldn't be more Mars and Cancer.
Lit-
Silent treatment
like
in the
teenagers, like
lunchroom. Like girls in the lunchroom, silent treatment.
yes,
Jesus. this is
the middle
so-
school, high school drama.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's so important in that time. And then when you get older and you reflect and you're like, what the fuck
We're
are
all
we
crying about it now.
Right. And we miss each other in our friendships. Like,
Yeah. And I'm going to text you like, I still want to be friends. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you. And you're
Right.
like, what?
what?
Yeah. I feel like that is the crab with knives
Yeah,
and then
Just
like
immaturity.
crying high school girls in a
Yeah.
lunchroom. These are just perfect examples of Mars and Cancer. But good news is that Jupiter will come into Cancer June 9th. And Jupiter exalts in Cancer as our
Okay,
greater
okay.
benefic. So I think it's going to smooth out,
Nice little weight. Hopefully it'll be lifted.
heal, vitalize.
Yeah, I love the heart emoji with the bandage.
Yeah, it's going to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to do
good.
that. Heal us at
We
the
love
very center core.
Yeah, our inner home healing.
And Mars will be in Cancer for a little while yet. It will be there until April 17th.
Ay.
I know. And we literally don't get a Mars outside of Cancer or Leo until June.
Okay.
So right about the same time Jupiter's like sweeping in to clean everything up, you get a new Mars and Virgo being like, yes, let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
But
we're in this together.
That's another good name for this moon. Full moon in Leo. We're all in this together, bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the next moon we have is going to continue the soup theme. We have a new moon in Pisces on Wednesday, February 27th.
Soupy moon.
And I'm sure we're going to be talking like it.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm already halfway there.
I cannot wait to record this.
I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to be speaking in like, some kind of fairy language.
We're all going to learn a different language and then just speak in that language the entire time.
Elvish. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Invent it.
Yeah.
Invent a new one. Yeah. Well, thank you all for listening. We will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.